Ugh.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live here via the International Public Radio Station on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM, 105.3 FM in New Orleans. Tonight, we welcome Mike Ricksecker back to the show. And yeah, I'm hearing some backlash. And he will be discussing his new docuseries on shadow people. And of course, he's working a whole lot of other stuff. So he'll fill us in on that. And hopefully we're just going to be able to pick right up where we left off. So in order to participate in the show, you will need to pop over to the YouTube channel. You can find it on UFO Paranormal Radio, International Public Radio. I don't even remember the other one, so I'm not even going to say it. But
Don't look at me.
We are airing simultaneously on multiple Facebook pages, on Twitch, I believe Twitter, and of course you can chat in all of them. But if you want a written response, you're going to have to be on one of the YouTube pages. So welcome everyone. Hello, Bubbly.
Hello, how are you?
Well, I'm okay. It's been that kind of a day, off on some excursions.
Saw the post. Like, oh,
I know.
I pity the fool who messed with you.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I'll have to fill you in on that one. It was kind of amusing, actually.
Crazy.
But off on my travels and you know how I like to find these little treasures and stuff, so found a really big colossal treasure that I have to go get tomorrow.
No, you?
Yeah, it's part of a church.
I don't believe it.
It's part of a
Wow.
It is.
The part she loves most, the furniture.
No, it's not a piece of furniture. It's like it's big. There's a few pieces, but anyway.
Nice.
Because as you can see, I love that the sort of the Gothic decor. So I'm just okay, guys. I'm just on here. I'm going to accept. I have to come in and accept your post here. Yeah. So
thank you.
I've kind of been a little bit airheaded all day, and was supposed to phone a good friend on my travels and completely woofed on it. So just one day it kind of rolls into the next day. But aside from that, it's all good. How about you? How are you feeling? We'll leave all that right there
without being ripped right off the internet right now. But
no, yeah,
I'm a lot better. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
What I'd like to tell the audience, if you're listening, if you come to the Outer Realm on Instagram, or if you come to my Instagram page or on Facebook, you'll see in the story, especially on my personal one, and you're welcome to see the story without having to follow me. I don't post that much, but I do interact. Anyways, I'm posting a lot of positive messages, and that's all you're going to see for me. You're not going to see news sources. You're not going to see any of that stuff because we get inundated with that enough as it is. And I've noticed that everyone who's watching, it's grown. And I'm so happy because that means that all my work in trying to find these really amazing quotes from some of the greatest, in our times, like Oscar Wilde and David Henry Thoreau, and you know what I mean, like all of these, and Eckhart Tolle, and there's just so many of them. But anyways, if you're feeling down and you need a boost, just please help yourself. Go over to the story, click on it, and maybe I can help you somehow that way, because I can't believe how much it's growing and how many people are actually following it that I'm not even following, or they're not following me on Instagram, but yet they'll find it on Facebook. And I'm really happy with that. It makes me feel good to make other people feel good. So this is my way of reaching out, even though we're in lockdown. Yeah. So please come by and enjoy it and take a deep breath when you're reading them.
Yeah. Or just go check out my rant. Yeah.
Or you could check out Michelle's rant. And
I never rant. No, so when I
was really shocked when I saw that. I go, oh, pity the fool who did this to Michelle.
Worse, because it was a fool who did it to a family member of mine.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. So I'll leave it right there. But yeah, but hey, tonight we're gonna have like an amazing show. I had a really good time with Mike. You weren't on the last time, and and he's just a wealth of information. And especially when we start talking about shadow people, he has this new docuseries out, so I'm really curious to see what he's got to say about it. Because honestly, everybody has this idea of shadow people, and I was sort of enlightened a little bit. I was sort of like, oh, really? And he goes, no, it's this, and this. I was just like,
I missed that.
I don't think I've really come across too many friendly ones. So
I can speak from personal experience. I have never. I've had nothing but battles with them, but we do the same work. So
yeah, so
we work together. Yeah,
it was interesting. So if he's ready, if he's here, and if Joe has him to bring in, like to get the party started, because he's got like a whole lot to talk about, and can't wait.
Hey there, how's it going?
Good. How are you? I love that big radio voice. I love that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
unlike the Disney voice on this end.
No, it's true.
It's nice to meet you, Mike. I'm sorry I
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Last time you were on, my dad had passed away, so I had to take some time off. Thank you.
Mike also had a loss.
I'm so
and his family
sorry.
Also on the last show.
Not easy at all. That's for sure. It's tough losing them. Even when you're in this field, people think that it's easier for us because we have a different understanding. Our losses are just the same as yours are, whether we're
still human
here or anything. Exactly.
What?
Right?
Somebody forgot to tell me that. No. It's like, what?
Yeah.
No. It's true. I think it's a big misconception. I tend to view death a little bit differently, but then I haven't lost a parent. I haven't lost a child. Friends and stuff like that. Family.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I know. Sorry. So, it's, and we're in different times right now. And I like that, all of these shows, not just this one, but all of our shows and many other good shows out there just sort of take people away from that every week. And I think it's awesome. I would like to pick up a little bit about where we left off the last time, because we touched on a few different things, but maybe just to elaborate a little bit or touch on things that some people may have missed if they did not catch the first show, and then you can tell us about your docuseries and why shadow people. What is it about shadow people? Honestly, but I understand people have a lot of questions about it, and I'm one of those people.
Right. So where to start?
Where to start? Okay, what are they? Why? What led you to want to research them specifically? And how are they different to you?
Yeah, what are they is a really loaded question, because there are a lot of different things. There's no like one, cookie cutter answer to tie it up in a nice little bow and say this is what they are. They are and can be a lot of different things. But what got me into it, I was very young. I was 8 years old. Woke up in the middle of the night, and there was this tall, dark shadow standing in the corner of my room. Of course, I had no idea at the time about shadow people or shadow entities, shadow phenomena, anything like that. I just thought there was an intruder in my room and it was about to kill me. But that's not what happened. Of course, I was terrified being that age. I was trying to scream. My mouth had opened up. Nothing was coming out. And then it did something very unusual. It approached my bed, took me by the wrists, crossed my arms across my body, and then ran off down the hall, in of all places, into a closet. By that point, I found my voice, it was very unusual. But by that point, I found my voice, found my legs, ran off to my parents' bedroom, and they tried to console me, told me that I just had a bad dream, but I knew I'd been awake for this whole thing. So that was the first encounter. The second one, I was 13 years old. We were just moving into a new house. We'd moved from Massachusetts to Ohio, and I'm just putting things away in my bedroom, unpacking boxes, putting things away, and I kept seeing this figure standing in the doorway to my room, and I turn and look, and it would run off. And this one was a little bit different than the other one. The other one was very solid. This one was more translucent. It was very fast. And this kept happening over the course of several days, where I'd be unpacking boxes, putting things away. It would be standing there in my doorway, and I'd turn and look and it would take off. So I ended up asking my mother about this. And I guess she thought I was a little bit more mature at that point in time. And she told me she had seen the same thing too, which was, a great affirmation, and helped me to realize I wasn't crazy for seeing this thing. And she wasn't, definitely a bonus. And she wasn't alarmed by this, which was great. It helped me to realize, okay, this is something that's here, but mom's not afraid of it seemingly. So I got playful with it, and I started calling him Tom, like Peeping Tom. So anytime I see him, I say, "Hey, Tom," and he'd take off. So that lasted for about 3 or 4 months, and I just chalked it up to somebody that was in the house, was curious about the new family, and then deemed that we were okay, and it went about its business.
I have to say, you're probably the only person I've ever heard of who plays with shadow people.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I was like,
kidding.
wow, and you weren't afraid.
No, because it wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing. I know that there's really a mix of different stories. There are plenty of people that have experienced the more nefarious kind. And I get a lot of questions about those. And there are ones that, yes, are mean, nasty, and nefarious. There are ones that are actually benevolent and actually do help people. Most are just rather benign. They just stand there and they're watching and observing. And a lot of people get scared of them because a lot of times it's creepy.
An intrusion.
Right. It's an intrusion. It's invading our personal space, but it's not actually doing anything. It's just standing there. We tend to fear what we don't understand, and why would this thing be standing there? So it's really a mix of different things that appear as shadow phenomena.
Okay, so let's just go with the Peeping Tom, who just lurks around your house and stares you down.
I love that you named him.
Yeah.
So that was actually his name, but he didn't say he didn't.
Most people just call
he
him
didn't say opposed. Right.
Yeah, we call him Get Out. So, are they human, non-human, interdimensional? Are they, extraterrestrial? What do you think they are primarily?
All of them. All of them. It depends. It depends on the specific shadow entity. Some are human spirits. Right. I've had a number of people. I mean, I used to be in the camp that a shadow person is a shadow person, and a human spirit's a human spirit, and ET's an ET. But over the years, I'd gotten so many stories from people about, like my good friend Rob Gutrow. He had routinely told me the story about his aunt appearing to him as a shadow so that he could relate a message from her to his mother. And I trust Rob with my life. And so at some point along the way, I was like, okay, I'll be open to this. And, fine. I'd heard from enough people that some of these are human spirits that can't fully manifest as as an apparition. But then I finally saw it from my own eyes a couple of years ago. We were running a investigation at Mineral Springs Hotel in Alton, Illinois. And from down the hall, there's 5 of us there. We see this shadow smoke come up from down the hallway, and it ends up morphing into the apparition of a little girl. And there were all kinds of stories of this one room up there being inhabited by the spirit of a little girl. And here we are, we're actually watching her walk down the hall. We're trying to coax her closer, and she stops right in front of the doorway of the room where everybody says that she's at. And so it's like, okay, so here's a shadow that's actually a little girl. There are some that are, what I think a kind of quote unquote true shadow person is an interdimensional being from another plane of existence. Some of them, could certainly be ETs. Yes, some are more nefarious, and some are demonic, and others could even be time travelers, and we're seeing them as a shadow.
That's an interesting perspective. Time travels. I feel like that as well sometimes.
Because I think a lot of people might say, okay, let's go with the little girl in a shadow form. I think you would have those people that say, well, how do you know you're just not being tricked? There's always the naysayers. I know you're not being, because people aren't used to shadow people as being friendly. Sorry. I said,
Right. Well, I mean,
Right.
yeah, there's always going to be people that say, well, what if the demon is trying to portray a little girl? Well, I mean, the little girl spirit, nobody had ever, until that point, nobody had ever seen her as a shadow before. Everybody had always talked about the little girl being
Right.
in that room, very sad, waiting for somebody to come pick her up. Cody Chris Sutton, the shaman, worked in
Yeah.
that room many, many times, and he believes that she is there waiting for her father to pick her up, just looking out the
Oh.
window.
Oh.
So it's a very heartbreaking story. So just to try to say she's a demon, no.
Yeah. I wonder maybe if people had seen shadows before, just not you got to see her change. Maybe they've seen her in shadow form, just not realizing it's her that they were seeing.
Yeah, people have seen shadows up there before in a variety of different forms. Some people have seen, a shadow man up there. As far as maybe shorter shadows, I mean, I hadn't heard that specific story, but
Right.
I wouldn't be
Right.
opposed to it either.
Right. Okay. What about the Hat Man, the Shadow Hat Man? That seems to be a bone of contention with some people. They're nasty. They're mean. They're just blah blah blah. If you see a shadow with the hat, run the other way. Thought.
Yeah, and a lot of people will say that they are energy vampires, that they come to strike fear into you and feed off of that fear. And there are a lot of reports that say, well, yeah, that is one thing that they are.
Mhm.
The shadow hat wearing shadow entities seem to be a couple of different things, and I'm going to keep going back to that. There are a number.
Yeah,
of
that's okay. I'm just trying to fill in the blanks
so
for those who didn't
yeah,
hear the
yeah.
first show. Yeah.
Yeah, so some are those
And
shadow
Amelia.
entities that are mean,
Thank
nasty,
you.
and nefarious. Yes, there are
Right.
others that that are ETs. So interesting story.
Mhm.
Albert K. Bender. In fact, I have the book right here, Flying
Oh,
Saucers and
wow.
the Three Men,
Okay.
from the because I did a presentation on that not too long ago. And this is a story from the 1950s. He founded the International Flying Saucer Bureau, and he was scared off of the whole thing by these three hat-wearing entities that materialized into his room.
Hmm.
And they had the glowing eyes. They were wearing the hats. They were shadowy in nature. I mean, basically the whole deal that we usually attribute to, hat-wearing shadow entities, the Hat Man, whatever.
Mhm.
And to him, they were ETs. They wanted him to stop talking about UFO phenomena. He had put this newsletter. This thing had gone global within less than a year. So it was really big. We're talking 1952, 1953, around the time of the big
Wow.
UFO flap.
Mhm.
And so he was visited a few different times by them, and he did stop his research into the UFO phenomena. And he was saying that these were ETs. Well, there are other people around the same time that would chalk the phenomenon up to the Men in Black. So it's kind of like we're talking about very similar things, but they're
Mhm.
all a little different, because like the Men in Black, I mean, they're shadowy government agency.
Shady,
I
sure.
spent a little time at NSA, so I met some of those guys.
No
But they're
pun. No
human.
pun.
Yeah, right. So yeah, we're talking about a lot of different things here when we go down this route.
Mhm. Okay.
Wow.
So you decided to do a docuseries. Why don't you tell us
Mhm.
about that? Sounds exciting.
Yep. The Shadow Dimension. It's out now on Vimeo on demand, Zuzu, which is a Canadian streaming service, and then Quasum. And there are other platforms that it'll be available on here as soon as whatever the distributor's doing on their side.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it's a 6-part docuseries, and basically the whole premise is to go to locations that have reported this activity, that have also reported like portal activity, vortex activity, that sort of thing, there to see and try to determine what exactly these things are.
Mhm.
Can we experience one while we're there, and can we get to the bottom of why they seem to manifest at these type of locations? Now, this was all filmed during COVID, so the original idea was to get to a lot of places and do this. I was only able to get to 2. The one was the Conjuring House, and then the other was Mineral Springs Hotel in Alton. So, so it was still fascinating. We came a across a lot of interesting activity from a paranormal perspective. But we also discovered a number of things about the about the location of the Conjuring House and how that may actually be charged. I'm good friends with Andrea Perrin. I have been for a long time, so we've talked about a lot of the different experiences she's had there. I'm also good friends with Carl Johnson. We had him involved with the docuseries as well, because he experienced rolling black smoke on that second floor that basically came out of Andrea's old room toward him. This is like back in the early 1970s. And so he's actually experienced that there a couple of times. Andrea had experienced it there when she was growing up in the house. So there's a lot of interesting phenomena that happens there. It's like, okay, let's go there and see what we actually get. Had a lot of people involved in this project, getting not just, from capturing paranormal evidence, paranormal activity, that sort of thing, but also brought in a lot of researchers like Johnny Enoch and Mark Anthony, the psychic explorer, and a lot of these types of people to dive into like the esoteric history behind this phenomenon, because shadow entities have been witnessed throughout all time. So we get into ancient Egypt and ancient Sumer, and how the different things about the pyramids and all kinds of interesting things that actually relate to these shadows. And then one of the things that I did capture there was what looks like an interdimensional phase shift. And so we examine how the house may be actually charged. Like there's almost like a little power plant down in the basement that seems to be charging this whole place, that's spawning this activity throughout the house.
Wow. And what is the cause of that? Is it a natural anomaly? Did they just build a house over something that like a natural event?
Well, I mean,
like a vortex?
Yeah, people talk about like people say ley lines, but really what it is, Earth's energy grid, the telluric currents that are running through the Earth. So there may be that there, but even without that, you're looking at a house that right now it still has an open well in the basement. So there's a water source right there. You have limestone walls around it, and then capping those limestone walls are blocks of granite. So
because that's not like a supercharged setup right there. Wow.
Exactly. Right above that.
You end up with all of the factors in one place. Exactly.
Right above that is the room in which two very significant things happened. One was the seance that had gone bad, that everybody, when they watch the Conjuring movie, they think it's a demonic possession, but it's actually a seance that had gone bad, and that's the room where Carolyn got thrown into after whatever they had conjured up had tossed her. And also what happened in that room was a time slip in which Carolyn and Andrea had actually observed from that room, looking into the dining room, a family from like the 1700s suddenly materialized into the room. There was a woman cooking over the fire to a fireplace that had been closed up for 100 years. There were children running around, and then two men sitting at a table with these pewter tankards. And the one man looks at the other and says, "Well, you look at that." And they're like, they turn and they look at Carolyn and Andrea as if they were the ghosts. So it was like this total time slip that happened right there.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fascinating. And then above that room is where that rolling black smoke was seen. The bedroom where Cindy was tossed around on the bed, and all kinds of crazy things happened up there. So you're seeing this like just column of paranormal activity from that basement up through the house.
It's a funnel of energy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're lucky if you can find one of those factors, really, but to find it all coming together, it's almost like the perfect storm sort of situation. It's just all of these factors come into play, and Jesus.
Well, they had everything there. I mean, Andrea had ET experiences. They had demonic entities. They had ghosts. They had spirits from the past. there wasn't anything that didn't touch there. That creek beside them didn't help. The bar didn't help. You know, all that stuff. It was definitely a cocktail for, you know, one heck of a paranormal ride.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really fun.
You name it, it's pretty much happened there at that house, and it attracts all kinds of different entities, and so that's something that we were, you know, looking into. You know, we explore, you know, the idea of, you know, vortex energy, the magnetic energy welling up from the Earth's core that'll spawn off these portals, and the one capture that I got was, you know, basically, I call it interdimensional phasing because it's like this total phase shift in the photograph, and you guys have to watch the docuseries. But essentially, as you're looking at this photo and you're looking through the doorway from one room to the other, you see this this window that's there against the wall, the exterior window, but it shouldn't be there because it's behind.
Mhm.
Looking from one room to the other, it should be behind the wall, but it's shifted from behind that wall into the other wall that actually has a chalkboard on it. It's like, what in the world is going on here? And it's, you know, with that energy there, I think we're getting a glimpse of, you know, phasing out from one dimension to another. And you know, we're talking a lot about the Conjuring House, but you know, we're exploring some of the similar type of things in the other few episodes when we go to Mineral Springs. That one also, it's basically, it's been filled up with a bunch of junk, but it has the old mineral spring right there, which is this, you know, well, this cistern that goes into the ground.
Mhm.
It's right there along the Mississippi River. You have the limestone bluffs. It's right up the river from Cahokia Mounds, which is, you know, an ancient ceremonial site. You know, so you have all those other things around this area too. That's charging you
Yeah.
know, this location.
Yeah, another event waiting to happen. When you look at places like this, is this something that can be, I don't know, can you close up this sort of a dimensional shift, rift, you know, block the well? I don't know. Yeah, like I'm just thinking because so many people, and you know, they do have situations where their house is built. I mean, this one here over quartz,
Mhm.
when it just amplifies. You know, we can't change that. Can't move the
Right.
house.
Yeah. There's
Can't.
a lot of these geological structures. There's nothing you can really do about it. You know, you can't move. You can't move the limestone bluffs. You
Yeah.
can't move. I mean, I guess with the Conjuring House, you could tear down the house, but I don't think they're going to do that. You know?
No.
With
No.
Mineral Springs, they still have that open. They have filled it up, but you know, we're down there with the dowsing rods, and just immediately you take the rods out, and boom, they're pointing right at the well. So,
So, you know, yeah, it's a thing
so
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah. So, well, that's, you know,
And then
it's
the
like,
Mississippi River's right there. You can't move the Mississippi River. So, yeah.
And nothing happened on that river.
No, not at
No.
all.
No, there's no blood spilled in there.
no.
Wow, it's crazy. Mind you, you came from Massachusetts. Massachusetts is basically all haunted. The entire flipping
Yes.
state.
Yeah.
That's a lot of experience.
Mm.
It's my favorite state, by the way. But anyways,
Oh
So
yeah,
what,
I love Massachusetts. That's
yeah, so pretty.
so what do you do if you move into a place that's fully loaded like this and you have activity and let's say you don't want to move? Is there a way to calm it down? Is there a way, or do they just contact you and say, okay, educate me on this and how do I deal with, you know, this family that just keeps popping up and looking at me? And I mean, I've encountered a time rift, not quite in the same context, you know, and we tried to research where it was coming from. I mean, these people saw us and they were describing us sitting at a table with electricity and, you know, an open door, and they're in a plane and they're just like, oh, there's a door. I'm like, no, don't come through the door. Whatever you do,
Don't do that.
don't come through the door, because you could hear this like warplane, and I was like, good grief. So what do you do with something like that? You can't really stop it, and if you're skittish,
right. Yeah. You you're not going to be able to make it fully stop. I mean, you can do things to try to more positively charge the atmosphere. I mean, I could sit there and say sage down your house constantly, but
Right.
you can, especially in locations that have a lot of these geological features to it. You can introduce other types of stone onto the property to try to adjust that and maybe tune it a little bit. Again, you're not going to be able to totally stop it, but you might be able to do something to at least get the vibration to change a little bit so that maybe it's a little bit more positive.
That's a fantastic point, because a lot of people use crystals for healing and other stuff. Why not use it on a larger scale?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, that's what the ancients did with the standing stones and all of that. They knew that the energy was there in the ground. They were trying to harness it for different reasons. Depending on what they were doing, they had their different configurations, or they used various types of stones to be able to do that stuff.
Absolutely. Wonderful point. I think we forget that sometimes.
A lot of things people just jump to the first.
Well, the first thing they jump to is sage, because it's so Hollywood and it's so on TV, and psychic so-and-so did it in this episode. And I personally hate the smell of sage. It wouldn't do anything for me. Seriously, I can't stand the smell of it. Just when you're burning it, love to cook with it. Not so much for
it's a little different,
stuff. Yeah, I'd rather bring a priest in. That's just me. But
I think it just comes down to mindset.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, whatever it is you do, if you believe that it's working, then you keep doing it. If it's positive, that's fine. Your mind can run away with you. You can start projecting energy, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. That's just my 2 cents worth.
I agree with you. You definitely have to believe in what you're doing.
Yes.
Well, no, some people say, well, sage doesn't work. Well, no, if you're in a really severely haunted location and you're having a lot of bad experiences, saging once isn't going to fix it. And if you don't say what you mean what you say, follow through, put power behind the words you're using, and put power behind the intention of the clearing, no, it's not going to work. It's just, it is a lot of mindset, I think, to a degree. You can't go in and wave a magic wand. A lot of times it doesn't work that way. So people are like, okay, you're going to clear the house one shot, right? What?
No, it could be here a year. On you. Here a year, and with the priests as well, for people who have priests come in for blessing. If your place is severely haunted, they're going to need to come in more often than just the one time, or 4 months down the road. You have to work with them and see what actually, I don't know. Like, I know Ed and Lorraine Warren had that museum blessed. What was it, like once a week?
Once a day, I thought.
Or once a day. Like he would come in and do the holy water, but Ed would do his own thing, but then they would bring in a priest to do like a full blown out. I want to say it's more than a blessing. It was almost like a clearing, with that, and it worked for them. But exactly that, it has to be mindset. It has to be what works for you. That's why I think a lot of people are so afraid of shadows, because they've been, basically told to, conditioned and watched on television.
People see.
Pop culture has definitely told us that anything that's shadowy in nature, is something that's evil and demonic, and it that sells. In our big, blockbuster movies in that genre, everything is dark and nasty and all that. But I have plenty of stories in my book, A Walk in the Shadows, in which the shadow entities were actually helpful. Whether it was saving somebody from falling down the stairs, or helping the diagnosis of a little boy. It's those things do happen, and we don't pay attention to that because it's in this field, in this genre, people want the spooky stuff, and those stories aren't spooky.
Fear mongering.
No, tell me. It's like how many times I've like I say it, how many times have I filmed, and you can give 5 or 6 answers to one question, and in the end it's like, can it be this? Maybe. But it could be all of these too. But nobody cares about that. It is the whole fear factor, I think. But I also think maybe people have a hard time. For the example, the situation with your friend and his mother, you have the logical explanation. She couldn't fully manifest. I think it's difficult for some people to imagine that their loved one would be this dark being, because media does portray it to be a certain way. And a lot of people have had, really bad experiences. You know, they automatically assume, well, they can't be over then. They must be stuck, you know, and why are they in shadow form? So to turn around and say, well, because it can't fully manifest. We've had shadows in this house. One was a white shadow. Actually, it was just like a white, sort of a misty form. And it would just sort of float around. And I think if it's only been seen maybe on 2 occasions by people who've been guests here. So that's my education in a white shadow type of shadow being, I guess.
Yeah, a white mist. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't normally chalk that up as a shadow entity, but some sort of white wisp or white mist, some sort of ethereal energy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, full form of an individual, you know, just in a white format. I was sort of like, oh, okay, there's something we haven't seen in the house before, but you know, that didn't seem as unnerving for some reason.
Pop culture tells you it's not too. It tells you, and we know better than that. Yeah.
No, exactly. Exactly. The Outer Realm Wednesday is it at this time? Yes, it is. 2 a.m. UK time. Sure is. No, that's okay. I just saw that come up. It's like, yes, it is. No problem. So when you're doing work with energy vortexes, let's say, what are your thoughts on portals that can be created? Because, you know, you have different, you know, considered negative portals. What are your thoughts on that? You have negative ones, positive ones. They say that they're man-made because it's intention as to the spirit that.
Oh no, there are naturally occurring portals that happen. I mean, there's one just outside the planet Earth that's actually in space that NASA has confirmed. Yes, there's a portal out there, and it has and it's basically the between the Earth's magnetic sphere and the solar wind from the sun. That there's a point there that actually creates a naturally occurring portal, and that happens where, you know, on the Earth, we're talking on the planet, of course. You have the energy. I kind of
let's go with that.
We're gonna stay on planet. I mean, the portals on Mars.
Wednesday. Yeah, right, this planet. Okay.
But yeah, I kind of talked about it earlier, where you have that you know, that magnetic energy welling from the Earth's core, and that's where we get our vortex energy from, and that vortex energy will spawn off things like portals, and they, you know, can happen randomly. We don't exactly know when they're going to occur. The Bermuda Triangle is one that's you know, a place on the Earth that's really ripe for that to happen. You hear a lot of stories about you know, portals occurring down there. Bruce Gernon is a survivor of a portal there, where he flew right into this, you know, this tunnel of energy. It was the clouds are swirling around and basically made that tunnel, and he ended up flying right through it. Didn't really have a choice because of how everything was happening, and basically he lost time.
Oh, absolutely.
He ended up in Miami like a lot sooner than he was supposed to, which is really crazy. And you know, I was on the Alaska Triangle, and that was one of the things that we were researching up there was the you know, the vortex energy up there and how it interacted with the environment. And one of the things was the portals that would occur up there, and you know, are some of these people going missing up there, or some of the airplanes going missing up there. One of the ideas, one of the stories that we covered was a Douglas Skymaster airplane that went missing in 1950. That, you know, just, it was a huge airplane, just disappeared into thin air. You know, it was, you know, a fairly clear day. There were a few clouds, nothing significant. The place where they had last heard from it, there was no evidence of any plane. Where did it go? In fact, a month after that one disappeared, there was a smaller plane around that same area that actually crashed. They found the crew, and they were apparently okay. But this bigger plane could not find it, could not find the crew. They did hear a little bit of some cryptic radio transmission not long after, but they couldn't really discern what it was, and they believe it may have been from that airplane. The idea is that the plane entered a portal, went missing. Sound works on a different wavelength than than our visual senses. And so the idea is that the sound was able to travel back through the portal a little bit, and we were able to actually hear it. And my idea, and this is just really, pure speculation, but I'm in the middle of writing a book on the Alaska Triangle, and I'm including it. There's a lot of legends about thunderbirds and how huge these things were.
Yes.
They were enormous, very loud. So this is just a idea.
No, I want to hear. I love. They're one
Okay.
of my favorite cryptids. So I'm dying to hear what you have to say about it.
But let's say this portal, if this Douglas Skymaster disappeared through a portal, where does the portal take him to? Well, with Bruce Gernon, it jumped him ahead in time, 45 minutes or whatever it was. Well, maybe this portal with the Skymaster sent it back in time, say, I don't know, 500 years or something like that. And this thing is, flying overhead of all these Native Alaskans, the Inuit that are up there. Well, they don't know if it again, speculation, if it's something like 500 years ago, they're going to have no idea from an airplane. They see this huge gargantuan thing flying in the air. They relate it to a bird. It's loud, thunderbird.
It's bigger than them.
It's an idea.
That would actually make a lot of sense.
I love your perspective, Mike. I like how you look at things. I really do.
The ancients did emulate what they saw and adapted it to what was familiar to them, and that would make sense.
Absolutely. That does make a lot of sense.
Like
UFOs when you're talking about
and
portals.
chariots.
It's the whole, it's kind of almost another take on like the whole ancient alien theory where, they may have interacted with extraterrestrials and, UFOs and what have you thousands of years ago. And the way that they were able to interpret it, showed up in their artwork and their gods and all that, because they had nothing else to be able to, they didn't have the context to be able to relate it to, aliens or what have you.
No, it's true. I mean, they are in ancient texts, UFOs themselves, and ancient paintings. How many of Da Vinci's paintings or other artists of the time do you see, especially the religious paintings, and you look up and there's a craft in the corner just up in the sky, or a couple of crafts, or there's so much of it. It's all over the place. I think we've all just been, brainwashed. I didn't say that. Just
No, you too. Send it to Joe Montaldo.
Yeah, let's do that.
United Public Radio. He's got a contact there on his website.
But, I mean, you're looking back even into ancient abductions. You go back, Enoch was probably your first abductee, technically. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just all a matter of perception. But I think this is, I love the whole Thunderbird thing. Like I said, when it comes to a cryptid, so to speak, it's probably one of my favorite. And it's probably one that you just don't hear a lot about. You hear about all the traditional ones. You don't hear about him.
I love that with the plane. I'm sorry. It's going through my head how they talk about the wingspan and the noise and how it's bigger than this and it's bigger than that, how they compare it. That is so, I love that.
No, thanks. I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense. You just have to, hang on to that idea of this airplane going through a portal is sent them backwards in time. If you can say, okay, that's possible, then you can say the Thunderbird idea is possible. Yeah,
because we always think portal forward. We never think going back. Backwards. That's why it's a great perspective. It's a good point.
Well, the time is just a human construct. It's just a human concept. I believe that all time, past, present, future, is happening concurrently, and there are times in which we get a glimpse of the past or the future for whatever reason. We don't know what the catalyst is, but we get it resonates at the same frequency for just a moment, and we get a glimpse of another point in time. I think these portals will actually open up sometimes and give us access to it. It's a naturally occurring phenomenon. Don't exactly know why it happens to spawn in that moment, other than saying, okay, it's resonating at the same frequency right now. But I think the ancients were trying to harness that's what a lot of these different ancient sites, the ancient sites of power, like Stonehenge and the different, stone circles. I think they were doing things
Easter
like that
Island.
there.
Yeah.
Easter Island, yeah.
Mhm.
And they were trying to, and they probably did. They probably did harness that. And we speculate, okay, were they playing around with altered states of consciousness? Were they using it for healing powers? We know they were aligning astronomically and they were using it for celestial purposes and things like that. But were they also purposely opening up portals and stargates and things like that? There's an interesting story from Stonehenge from, I think it was the 60s or 70s, where a police officer had actually seen, this is back when you could just randomly walk up to Stonehenge and they didn't have all the tourism and everything there.
Not anymore, no.
But there were some young kids camping up there, and the police officer was basically watching them, had an eye on them for a little bit, and all of a sudden he saw this bright light over there, and then the kids were gone. He called them like a group of hippies, the disappearing hippies or something like that.
They never came back?
Yeah, they just disappeared. So did they accidentally, with whatever they were doing up there, open up a portal and they slipped into it?
That's what the whole series of Outlanders based on.
I was just about to say,
it's
sort of like the Outlander thing, back and forth.
She came back. That's why I asked,
forth.
did they come back? Has anyone ever come back from that? Is there any stories about that? That's cool.
Time travel.
Yeah, I haven't heard about I haven't heard about the hippies coming back. But what would be interesting is to try to find the archaeological evidence. Are there people that are out of time? And we've seen some interesting photographs of people from like the 1940s, and there's this guy with the wraparound sunglasses and a camera that doesn't fit the time frame and a silkscreen T-shirt and all that stuff. And it's like he's a person that's out of time. So, we'd have to try to find that evidence in our archaeology.
There's monoliths everywhere. I mean, the ancients always, for the most part, built on power spots. So.
And how did they know?
Yeah, they knew where those currents were. They had their means. I mean, today we could find it using dowsing rods.
Exactly.
Right? That's one of the things I was doing up there in Alaska on the Alaska Triangles. I was up there with the dowsing rods, and I found a line running basically from the top of Flat Top Mountain down to Anchorage, and so they would use technology like that to try to find those lines. Be like, okay, this is the spot where we build it, so we can tap into that energy. And now we look at those sites. We just take a look at a map and here's the site, here's the site, here's the site. And that's what gives us our quote unquote ley line, is those, those geodetic sites that have all lined up. That gives us our ley, but it's the telluric currents under the ground that they were tapping into. That's why these sites line up.
Yeah.
It's funny, like you say, we used dowsing rods back then. I think it was something very similar. And I only know this because, not because I was there, but because we have an elderly man here up in Canada. And he would go and he would look for graves, nesting graves, and he would do it with a stick. And I mean, bang on, he would find them every time. If they were leveling an old jail or an asylum, things like that, they'd say there's a missing graveyard here somewhere, and you'd see him just out there with this stick that just did this, would just sort of vibrate up and down. So I wonder if it's something along those lines. It's quite fascinating to watch him do it. Like, it's definitely a technology. It's definitely an ability. Give me a stick. It's definitely an ability that seems to have gone through time, because it's not, how many of them? Some of them are more technically advanced than we are now, for God's sake. So I'm just taking that's my perception.
What's kind of a shame is that, because of the television shows and YouTube and things like that, a lot of people kind of scoff at the use of dowsing rods, because somebody on camera could try to manipulate that. But if I'm trying to find something, I'm gonna be honest to myself, because I'm trying to find something.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna. Yeah.
That's
so
there are some people out
integrity.
there with integrity. Exactly. I love dowsing rods.
Yeah, there are engineers today that will use dowsing rods to find pipes under the ground. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's so primitive, but a lot of researchers are even very old school, pen, paper, dowsing rods, old fashioned tape recorders. They don't want any of this new fandangled digital stuff. Like I know some old school that just won't use any of it. Parabolic. It's just big as a room, something really ridiculous. But you know what? I remember using all those tools when in my infancy starting this, 20 odd years ago. And I find it worked amazing compared to some of the gadgets that are out there now. And I mean, kudos to everybody who is advancing in the field with all of this new stuff. Some of it works great. Some of it's just, I always say it comes back down to the common sense and, integrity.
Yeah, let me tell. I'll give you a really interesting example that happened just last month. So we were out at the Hinsdale house, and my girlfriend Nicole, she's a very good psychic medium. Check out her Guiding Echoes YouTube channel; it's fantastic. Got to give her a little plug here.
That's okay.
Of course.
Yeah. But she had never been there before, and we're just walking from the backyard toward the stairs that go off into the woods, and she hits this point where she's like, "Something's changed here. I feel like everything before this point was the energy of the house. Everything beyond this point is the energy of the woods and beyond." It's like, okay, that's interesting. So I took her around to show her some of the other areas. Later on, I got out the dowsing rods. I'm basically walking the same path from the house up toward the stairs that go off into the woods. And right when I hit that point, the rods had been straight out. I hit that point, and all of a sudden, boom, the rod suddenly just did a 180 on me and turned the other way, right at that point where she felt that energy shift.
Wow,
That's very cool. That's a great validation for her. Yeah.
A good medium will be a natural dowsing rod right off the bat. Yep. You'll be able to flow with that energy. And it's funny you say that because one of my dearest friends, knew the history and spent time at the house long before the current proprietor, Daniel. And she always said there's something that wasn't right about the woods. It was just
there's more going on with that land. I mean, there's stuff going on in the house, but there's more going on with that land. Yeah.
And she always said that. Yeah, she always said, you know what? You walk there. She recalls walking along an adjacent property, and just as she came to the clearing and saw the house just off in the distance, she said it was strange. She goes, because I just had the urge to just stop. It was like a wall was there.
Oh my God.
I know.
That's so creepy.
I know.
Yeah, and she said, creeped me out, but
it's weird. She said it creeped me out to the point, she goes, where the whole clearing got loaded with crows. It's just like they blocked her view of the house. Yeah. So it's almost like, she goes, it's weird. It's almost like it knew, whatever is it within the forest, knew, like it really wigged me out. She goes, because all of a sudden it's blocked out the house. And then I completely relaxed. I'm just like, that is just bloody weird.
Yeah, the crows are phenomenal creatures when it comes to
They are, but like messengers, protectors, whatever. It's just
definitely.
I thought that fascinating though.
Yeah, when I was there a year and a half ago, I had a really, really interesting experience in the woods. I was just there with one other person, and we doing our little investigation out in the woods, and we kept seeing this blue light dancing back in the trees. Like, what's that? What's going on back there? It was doing something really bizarre where it was like getting blurry, and then it sharpened back up and become clear, and then get blurry again while it's moving amongst the trees. And we couldn't get it to come any closer, and we didn't want to go too far back in there because you start getting at somebody else's property. So we decided to go back down, investigate inside the house for a little bit, and then we were sitting out back by the fire pit, just kind of shooting the breeze. And then all of a sudden, down out of the woods come all of these little blue lights. It was like that one big blue light had dissipated into all these little ones. And this is they weren't fireflies. People always say, well, they were probably fireflies. It's like, no, this was late September. It was not the season.
Not a firefly. And fireflies just kind of taper off and then they show up somewhere else. And
right.
They're not blue people. They're not blue.
Yeah, they're not. Well, there are blue fireflies, but they're down in the Carolinas.
Okay.
Yeah. They only come out in June.
Yellow.
Yeah. And so, we're upstate. Well, not upstate, but, we're in the Finger Lake area of New York in late September. So we were not getting blue fireflies there.
No.
But the ones in the air, there were some in the air that were maybe like knee height, maybe chest high, that were twinkling. Then there were these other ones that were on the ground that would kind of like get really bright and then they dim out and get really bright again. And we're like, what in the world is all this? So we're like down there with flashlights. We're trying to see if it's a bug or something. And it's just, we couldn't find anything. We're trying to get on camera. Infrared wouldn't pick anything up. The full spectrum didn't pick it up. I just ended up with the camera. Yeah. I ended up with just the camera out, no filter, nothing. Just seeing if I could get up close on it and actually capture it. And I have like this real blurry little blue for like 2 seconds of something when they're all over the place, bright as can be, and somehow it's not picking it up. It was the most amazing thing. Of course, we didn't know what else to chalk it up to. We were like, okay, so fairies? I mean, what else would you call them?
I was going to think, I'm thinking it sounds like fairies and fairy dust. And I don't know. You know what? There's a lot of indigenous stories up there. And, the land with, the indigenous native culture. Who knows? Because, I mean, they dealt so much with earth spirits. The indigenous do. So makes you wonder, were they some kind of an earth spirit? That stuff just doesn't go away, like elementals and such, just because time moves forward to the present. I just think it makes you wonder, like, do we really stop and pay enough attention to our surroundings? Even as researchers, I mean, we're trained to pay extra attention to our surroundings, and how many people just, even in everyday life, the example I use is leave a glass on the table, go to work and come home. If the glass is moved, would you say to yourself, oh, God, that glass is moved? Or would you say, oh, yeah, right, I forgot to put that away? Life gets busy. Most people say, yeah, I forgot to put the glass away. I live in a haunted house, and I'd still say that, so. God,
she's not kidding. I thought she had a cat. She's not kidding.
No, there's lots in the house, but it's benign. It's friendly for the most part,
Right now it is.
Oh, yeah, every now and then something comes in, it's just like, okay, whatever. But
right.
But so I just wonder, paying attention to detail. I mean, I guess if you're out in the bush, you're going to see a little blue light.
But even then, in though, when you're in a forest, I mean, there's so much going on. When you stop and just focus around you, you're going to hear a lot of noise. You have to almost, and I think anyone who do this, you don't have to be a medium to do this. You kind of have to just compartmentalize like all of it. Just like, okay, I hear birds, I hear this, I hear that, and break it down to what's not supposed to be there. And I bet you'll find something.
I did the haunted forest in Romania.
That's crazy.
It's bad.
Wow.
Yeah, I have 4 hours trying to compartmentalize going.
No. She had a nap. She had a nap, Mike. She had a nap in there. A nap.
Yeah. Did you really?
I did.
Like
yeah.
How?
Well, not during the day though, but it's because, I just wanted to listen and take it in while it was light out. I just wanted to take it in. There's no sounds in the forest. It's completely silent, except for like it's this droning sound that you keep hearing, which everybody says, and the locals say, no, it's a gateway. You could hear it. I only found out after the fact that it was under a no-fly zone at the time, which was weird considering the airport wasn't really that far from it. But so you don't have any sounds. So if you don't really pay attention to what exactly, is there anything here that you can take in and get your bearings with? Not really.
And you can, yeah. And that's another one of those places that they say has those very strange electromagnetic anomalies there that create the portal activity, the strange supernatural paranormal activity there. It's why animals don't like it. Yeah, that's a location I've always wanted to get out to.
Oh,
no animals, no crickets.
It's fantastic. Nothing. No, there's nothing. There's no birds. It's very strange. It's eerie in that way. Of course, the trees are all bent out of shape and the trails are all marked. So you go in.
So you don't get lost.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
Any hiking trail, really.
No, it's 4 kilometers in. It is quite a distance to the circle for where it's better for you to park, right? And there's 6 ways in. But you don't see, like, we didn't see any, let's say, squirrels or any type of wildlife. There are bugs, but birds, things like that. Like,
that really fits in with the demonic, though, doesn't it?
Squeeze in no way.
There's roaches.
No way out. No, we saw some weird ass shit happening in that freaking forest. That's all I'm going to say.
No squirrels in a forest because that's normal.
No, there was weird stuff that happened, and it was just, you just.
Yeah, I mean, I
gracefully took it. and left.
Yeah, I can certainly see the birds staying away because if it's electromagnetic, they have the the magnetite that's there in their minds. It give them their bearings and how they're able to navigate. And so they would want to stay away from something like that. Yeah, that would make it creepy. If there's no animals around, that would be really creepy.
But that in itself,
quiet. It's too
you're
quiet.
expecting to even you're thinking to yourself, okay, what about the large animals? Because animals are intuitive to things that are going out. But it was this droning sound I kept hearing. It was like a humming.
Like a portal.
Like just like that. It was weird. After a while, you become desensitized to it, But when you listen to the recordings, it's there in the background, which is very strange.
Oh wow!
And I wake up in the middle of the day, and there's this guy going across the circle and an old horse and cart, which isn't uncommon in Romania with gypsies. It's really not. He's looking at me weird. I'm looking at him weird. I get up. And he goes through out one exit, and I follow behind, and he wasn't there.
Ah, there you go.
That's
Time
not even
slip.
the scariest part. Ask her about the trees.
Yeah, because I'm looking, and it's like, holy shit, there's nothing on the trail, So I don't know. It was weird. There's a whole pile of experiences that happened that night, and whatever it was came back and followed to the room, and because it was a brand spanking new hotel, all kinds of weird stuff was happening. So I do believe that, the energy, is it, it is said to be the Bermuda Triangle. There are multiple stories of disappearances that have happened up there, right? Like a whole herd of sheep, I think it was. And the sheep herd are gone, right? There's the little girl. How about that freaking little girl? She disappeared at 5 years old. Okay. Showed up 5 years later, still 5 years old, but totally mentally messed up. With her same little doll that looked like it had been put through a ringer.
They're not sure if that was ET or if it was like that triangle thing, right? Like they really don't know for sure. But that's pretty scary. I mean, as a mom, I'd be grateful she's back. But then again, as a mother,
she's still 5 years
freaking
old.
out.
And she is not like she's just not the same.
Pretty nutty.
Yeah. So what happened to the portal when you're asking, do they ever come back? That was a case where.
There you go. There's a case where if it was a portal, then she didn't come back.
Yeah.
But the residents.
But with some repercussions. Yeah.
Oh, big time.
Oh my God.
But the residents at the base of the mountain catch pictures of UFOs all the time. Now with camera phones, they're all up there. And you go in and they tell you right away, oh, you don't want to go up there. Yes, I do.
Actually, well, and I think that's why the government is starting to actually admit to some of this stuff happening, because there's too many ways for people to capture it, on their
exactly.
the phones, the cameras on their phones these days, or anything else. Before, 30 years ago, it'd be like a little fuzzy image or whatever, and that's nothing. But these days, we have all this great video technology. Yeah. High def, 4K.
True.
You're getting 4K on your phone now, so it's
true. Yeah, it's true. But at
so
one
they have
time,
to admit some stuff now.
Yeah, you can't deny some of it for sure. But at one time, only the University of Cluj, which is where the mountain is located, would do any kind of filming, and they do a lot of documenting of events on the mountain. The university does. I believe they were the ones that did filming for Josh Gates' Destination Truth when he first went, and both times I think they came up and did that. And of course that's changed because now, people camp up there. You see like remnants of campfires, and I'm thinking, damn, I'm bringing a tent next time. But it's just, seriously, trying to get out of there, like when it's dark, but and you're being followed out. It's just creepy. But anyway,
I'll wait for you on the outside.
Amelia wants nothing to do with it.
She doesn't.
She knows I don't.
She really doesn't.
No, she knows I don't. I have this thing about it. I think I'm just too ultra sensitive to walk through there. I don't know.
Oh, well, you would.
I don't know how that would. Yeah, I don't know how I deal with it.
Yeah. I don't know. Some people are just like tuned right in. Like I said, tons of experiences. It's not about me, so I don't want to get too much into it, but I thought it would be a nice addition to talk about like the whole Bermuda Triangle effect, missing people. It's definitely something, because a mountain doesn't just hum like that.
Yeah, that's definitely unusual. So, if it's not, mechanical, if it's natural, what is actually making that humming sound? And is it coming from the earth? Yeah, I've heard that about that area. I haven't been out to Romania yet.
Red lights in the middle of the night, things like that in the forest, much like your blue lights, but red, and they just sort of float around. So I don't know. It's different. So Alaska, do you think?
That is
I know.
so interesting.
Well, I am a fan of the show, I have to say. I've
Thank you.
watched everything. You're welcome. I've watched it all. I have American television, and I'm grateful for it. So I get to see this stuff. And of course, I get to see people who I know, which is nice. But I find it fascinating. So if there is this vortex, do you think things could be coming in? Obviously, it's got cryptids coming out of everywhere. And UFOs coming out of everywhere, like going into the mountains, and it just seems to be a really unusual area that has a mix of literally everything. I didn't see any cryptids in Romania, thank God. It's a long way.
There is a lot going on up there. I mean, Alaska's a very big state for one, so you're going to get a lot of the strange. Not even just cryptids, just a lot of strange wildlife in general. People don't realize that Alaska is like 2.5 times the size of Texas. They usually see it on a map, like in the corner, right? But when you actually stick it over, its actual size on top of the continental United States, it's massive. So there's a lot of room up there for things to kind of get lost, to kind of grow their own little civilizations and things like that. So people speculate there may be actually in some far off corner of Alaska somewhere there may be some woolly mammoths still alive, which would be really cool.
Really?
Right? That would be cool because they have such a vast, remote area that no one ever goes to, and then with the people of Alaska, such spirituality and all that energy, I could just imagine. I do love that show too, by the way.
Thanks.
Interesting. It's so interesting to see it in a different, like we always hear about these triangles and all these really tropical hot places. It's really cool to see it in Alaska with all of the sightings, like, with the Bigfoot and everything.
It's just
the triangle areas are really all over the world. I mean, everybody thinks of Bermuda Triangle. I mean, that's the one that really back in the 40s or 50s where they kind of coined that term, the Bermuda Triangle. And so now any of these other areas that have similar activity, they get dubbed as a triangle. So Alaska's one. Bridgewater Triangles, it's in Massachusetts.
Yes, we have one in Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, up near Michigan too, don't we?
Yeah, the Lake Michigan.
Yeah,
the Lake Michigan Triangle, which has a lot, and they have found in Lake Michigan some old stone circles down there,
monoliths.
So
yeah.
Which is really interesting. So, is that powering the triangle that's there? It very well could be. Dragon Triangle out there by Japan. So these things are all over the world.
Oh yeah,
we don't know enough. Like it's great that you're doing the show because most of us, like you said, are just, it's the Bermuda Triangle, or it's not that much. There's not enough information out there, so it's important.
What I like about it, like I say, it just has this blend of everything. I remember reading at one time, I think it was Nome, Alaska, that had something like 200 or 300 for that one year. Whatever freaking year it was. What was the name of that stupid movie that came out?
No, it's not stupid. It's excellent. And I still think it's real.
I enjoyed the movie.
Kind. I love the fourth kind.
Oh,
I know everybody's like, it's fake. I know, but you know what? There has to be some bit of truth to every story, to every conspiracy. There's a little bit of
there's
truth
a grain
to
of truth
everything.
in that.
To everything. Yeah. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but to everything, there's a little bit of truth.
Okay, I am just saying that upon further research, Nome, Alaska, in that year had something like between 200 and 300 UFO sightings.
And how many missing people? It was high up there as well. There was people who were missing with no explanation as well. That's why they were able to make that movie, because there was actual story behind it.
That's right.
Help me out, Mike.
It's not going to work. I just have it with that.
Sorry, Michelle. Amelia's kind of right there. So.
Thank you. I kind of have it with that. It just.
Yeah.
But but there are a lot of missing people in Alaska. It's abnormal. It's like Alaska. It's a big state. You could certainly get lost up there, and there are a number of people that have just naturally gone lost up there because it's a big place. But
Yes.
you're talking 16,000, more than 16,000 people since 1988. That's
Wow.
an abnormal
Insanity.
number.
That is.
Yeah,
insane.
it's really
Insane.
bizarre.
You can't explain that.
No.
So-
And some of these, things like the missing planes. I mean, we talked about one, but there have been many missing planes. And the most famous one from the 1970s, where you had the Speaker of the House, Hale Boggs, and
Yes. Yes.
the representative up there, Nick Begich, and their pilot just they have no idea where they disappeared to, just gone like that. And you're talking, a very high profile person.
No, that's true. Do you think that they never found anything with that plane?
They
either,
found
did they?
nothing. They had thousands and thousands of people out there looking for them.
That's
And and you're thinking, okay, 1970s were a little bit more modern
Mhm.
time. We could, no, there's nothing.
It's so dense, though. I mean, the forests. Good God, you end up,
Mhm.
you go down in there. You're not. I mean, chances of you being found or finding your way out, it's craziness.
Or finding the fuselage at any point. That would be difficult. If it's that dense, you can't
Yeah,
see it
sometimes-
with sonar, you can't see it with anything. Although it'd be interesting to go over it now with one of the military
Like
drones.
or things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes when they do find the wreckage, it's usually years later. I know the show kind of briefly mentioned the one with
Mhm.
with the nuclear bomb that is still missing, by the way.
Oh, that's good. That's good
Yeah,
to know.
That
Maybe
one
the
was kind of
ETs
like
took
right.
it.
Yeah, maybe the ETs took it. Well, they let the thing go into the water before they ditched the plane.
Mm.
And that was like right at the southern end of the Alaska Triangle. But when they had to get rid of that plane, it was on a training run down to Montana. They were testing distance, how far can we fly a nuclear warhead with an actual nuclear warhead. And when they started having just bizarre mechanical problems, they had to ditch the warhead into the ocean, still down there somewhere. And all the guys had to bail out. There are 5 that are still missing to this day. They did not find they ended up finding the airplane all the way out on a mountainside in British Columbia somewhere, 15 years later or
current,
something like
yep.
that.
That's crazy.
Well, the current,
Yeah.
it would move that way, right? It would go south.
So, what do you make of the disappearances? I know in British Columbia, they find a lot of running shoes with feet in them, hands. They send
Oh,
people
I
and
remember
stuff.
that. Yeah.
Did they go up that far up? Did they have those sightings that far up as Alaska also?
I haven't really heard of that sort of thing up in Alaska, but I do remember those.
They send
The
people and
crazy
such.
feet stories.
There's
Oh.
tons of them, though. Tons of them. I know.
It's
It's-
just gross. And it makes you,
Yeah, it's-
makes you look at reptilians in a
I had
different
to
way.
ask because I was kind of wondering if they were floating over from Alaska because all this weird stuff happens up
But
there.
just feet
Nothing
and hands,
happens in
that's
BC.
bizarre.
Come on.
That's
You know,
right.
No, I will say, as far as
give
like
it to me. Give it to me. You know it.
losing a body part, not human. This is back to airplanes. I spent 3 years in Alaska when I was in the Air Force, which is one of the reasons why I got brought into the show.
Mhm.
And within a few months of being up there, I got up there in November 1992. That April, there was a plane taking off from the Anchorage airport, and an engine just fell right off the plane and landed in a supermarket parking lot. Just absolutely
That's
crazy
in the
out of nowhere.
actual- Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
Somehow nobody got hurt because there was like shrapnel falling into apartment buildings and all kinds of stuff. Somehow nobody got hurt.
Good grief.
bizarre.
That's crazy.
See?
You're just walking along, strolling along with your carriage, your groceries. for
Could
the
you
day.
imagine, you're
And it
in the
misses
parking lot
you.
of the shopping of
No.
the supermarket, or you're walking out, and all of a sudden, boom!
Yeah, and it misses you.
Yeah.
Just
I was on the back side of the parking lot, fortunately, and nobody
Thank
got
God.
hurt.
Oh my
Still, it
God.
was-
Yeah, that's
bizarre.
crazy.
Did they figure out why? Like, which is a natural occurrence? Or
they
is this
just
like
they
electromagnetic
just
or
chalked it up. Yeah, they just
bad
chalked it up
engineering?
to faulty structural integrity or whatever, but it's
Really?
like,
And I would chalk
that's
it
just a
up
little
to
bit beyond that.
interdimensional drop is what I would chalk it
yeah,
up to.
you could chalk that up to, again, the electromagnetism of the triangle.
That's
doing
what
its
I would
thing.
have thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And of course you have like, you guys have underwater cryptids, you have, of course, Bigfoot, you have Thunderbird, you have little people, you have there's just a mix of all kinds
Everything.
of stuff. Well, yeah, watching the show is just
I love
like, that's what I liked about every segment is it was just sort of bounce around with everything. But I'm the most fascinated, I think, by the crafts that just seem to head right over into what's the name of the mountain that allegedly just opens up and they go right in. They think there's an alien base in it.
Yeah. Which one was that?
Yeah,
Like
it always
Space
eludes me
Mountain from the
when
Disney movie.
I
always bring everything back
Amelia.
to pop culture. Sorry.
But yeah, they get a lot of UFO sightings up there. Even when I was up there, people talked about it. So yeah, between the underwater bases and then UFOs all over up there. So yeah.
So I don't know. I personally, lean to the theory that some of these cryptids are interdimensional beings that just sort of come through these portals. I've read on a few occasions how the planet has been referred to as a zoo for extraterrestrials.
Really?
Hence, well, if you think about it, all of these different cryptids, possible. I mean, they can't all be left over. Some of them are pretty I get the aquatics. I get Bigfoot. There's some of them that are, yes, this sounds like it could be something just kind of left over, but let's face it, there's some out there that are just a little bit obscure. Mothman, for one. I'm a little weird about Mothman. I like
love
him.
Mothman's
I dig him.
My favorite.
I know. He's there. Shows up.
I would date Mothman. Yeah. Sit across from Mothman and have a conversation. Yeah. I have to lighten everything. I'm just that person. Yeah, sorry.
Trying to make a serious point here. And I would date Mothman. Great. That's good. Do you know what I'm saying? There are just some that just seem a little bit far out there to be something that's a part of our Earth's history.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of unusual stuff reported over the millennia on Earth, and whether some of it's, whether it's interdimensional or some sort of ET visitation or something left over from prehistoric times. There's a lot of unusual things happening here, and or is it the ETs coming and they're bringing some of their unusual wildlife with them?
Exactly. I tend to lean towards that a little bit. And I was researching for a show. I found there was a town in Italy, of all places, Amelia, you'll like this. These two little towns, and they had dragons fighting. And this is documented from medieval times. Okay, and they got this priest to come in, and of course, just with the power of his faith
for dragons.
Oh yeah, it was great. So apparently, with the power of his faith, he brought down this freaking dragon, and and the rib bone from this dragon allegedly is in the church, and you can actually go and see it.
Yeah, I've heard that story.
So
that's nothing to do with Game of Thrones. It's like we.
I don't know, but
that is just crazy.
What is weird is there have been mediums who have made mention of seeing dragons.
Yeah.
Why not?
Just a big lizard left over from prehistoric days? I don't know. What I'm saying is there are things that just seem to be a little bit out of the norm. And if we are like a zoo type planet, because, the type of planet that we are, which there are allegedly many more just like us out there, why are we the lucky ones that get to share space with it?
Maybe they get it too, though.
Yeah, I look at it this way. If, when we become a spacefaring civilization, what are we going to do? We're going to do a lot of the same things that we believe the ETs are doing. We're gonna go to a planet, and we're gonna do the whole watching and observing thing. So yeah, we are going to end up being the creepy guy in the corner watching what's going on.
Shadow guy.
But yeah, we'll be the shadow guy on some other planet. But
So,
but we're also going to do
Hmm.
things like we're going to take animals with us, so that unfortunately we will run tests on them and see how they fare and on some of these other planets, and we'll let them loose and monitor. Okay, what happens when we put a chimpanzee down on this planet?
right.
So is that what the ETs are doing? Are they, testing, the atmosphere and the environment here by dropping onto our planet maybe some life form that's similar to them but not exact, like maybe a close enough match, and they drop it here, and that's why we have, some of these crazy things running around.
Like reptilians and dinosaurs.
Yeah.
There you go.
Dracos. Just saying. I'm just gonna put it out there. I don't know, but it's true. Grays, and they say dolphins, whales.
Oh, I love dolphins.
Similarities.
Yeah.
Well, even Carl Sagan, was part of a group of scientists when they put together SETI, and they put together the Order of the Dolphin, because they believed dolphins were extraterrestrials that would teach them how to speak and communicate with other extraterrestrials.
They're beautiful beings.
But they're smarter. Freaking dolphins have beat out humans in an IQ test. There's something
that's funny.
wrong.
It's pretty sad.
It's
actually.
true. There's something seriously crazy about that. Like, they're highly evolved beings. And you can beat out. How do you beat out a human in an IQ test? Like, what are they asking?
They're compassionate as well. They're just
But
beautiful sentient beings.
it just goes to show you, though, like, there's just species here. Some we see every day. Others were like the octopus. Let's talk about the octopus that apparently is
There are a lot of people that believe that the octopus came here from out of outer space. Maybe it was panspermia or something like that. Where that dropped down, and because it's so different than other species on the Earth.
Oh, it's like so versatile. I mean, I think there was a video just recently of one just having a stroll along the beach.
Oh, yes. And that other one that gets through that little tiny hole and escapes his confinement in an aquarium. Yes.
But
They're
you're looking at a being
intelligent.
that allegedly is supposed to be an aquatic sort of being. And
they can do both.
It's strolling along. It's waddling around on a big beach. And it's not near the water.
Strange to see them walk on a beach. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And they also, like chameleons, can change their skin color to so that they can hide.
They can camouflage really well. Yeah,
very well. I've seen that. I love that documentary. I can't remember what it's called, but it's all about it was incredibly educational. I didn't realize how intelligent they are, and I have to say, after watching that, I stopped eating octopus.
I've never partaken. I'm just gonna put that
I'm
out
Italian,
there.
so I grew up on so it's just a lot of stuff I don't eat anymore. But anyways, I was just amazed at the way that they can go through the tiniest of holes.
Yeah, now it's like eating a freaking alien. So no, I'm good with absolutely not.
No.
Mike,
I haven't in years.
What's next with you?
What's next with me? Oh.
Yeah, what are you doing? You guys are opening up over there, so you're going to get to start filming again, or what are you going to?
Yeah, so we started doing a little bit of Shadow Dimension Season 2 while we were at the Hinsdale House. There's going to be a big chunk of that this June when I go to Egypt, so that's going to be absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
Yes.
We do have some events starting here. So Parapsychon in Mansfield at the Ohio State Reformatory, that's this weekend. And then June 6th through 12th, Laughlin, Nevada, the UFO Mega Conference. I'll be talking about our Some Shadow People extraterrestrials. So finally starting to get into events and things like that again.
Yeah, which is nice. It's a nice change for sure. And I think it'll be well received because people are just itching just to get back to, I was going to say back to normal. I mean, for us, this is pretty normal, I guess. But for some, it's considered paranormal. Oh, anyway. So, whatever, work with me, people. I need.
Look, Mom, I need a pun.
Yes. So.
Very punny.
It was very funny. I love that.
Thank you. That's just like crickets.
Like, you're my favorite.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to touch on that just briefly. Extraterrestrials and shadow people. How do you put them together? Because I struggle with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple different ways. So, I talked about the Albert K. Bender thing earlier, where his hat wearing shadow entities being ETs.
Right.
So that's one variety. Another way would be something coming down to this planet, trying to utilize some sort of cloaking device and not quite understanding the
Okay.
physiology of our eyes.
Okay.
They come off, instead of being camouflage, as some sort of shadow, or people talk about like seeing a shimmer man sort of thing. So that sort of thing as well. Um, Extraterrestrials that travel interdimensionally, because I think people think of ETs as always having to come in on like a flying saucer or some sort of spacecraft or whatever. Well, many of these may be so highly evolved, they don't have to leave their home planet. They can just travel their consciousness or what have you to here and check things out. And, if they materialize here, how are they going to come off? They wouldn't be fully formed physically, because their physical body would be back on wherever they're at.
That's a good point. Much like astral projection for people here, how we're having out of body experiences, who can travel.
In fact, some shadow entities could very well be astral projections. That is a small section that I have in my book. Is that you think about, and this is the example that I give, is that a grandmother who knows how to astral project, that she lives 500 miles from her from her daughter and her granddaughter. She wants to, go visit at night. So she, knowing how to astral project, goes there, looks in on her daughter, looks on her granddaughter. I mean, but what is she doing? She's going into the bedroom, kind of standing in the corner or at the end of the bed or next to the bed. And, say one of them wakes up and looks up, do they see her? Do they maybe see an outline of the body? Do they see her as a shadow? It's a distinct possibility that some of these things that we're observing are just us.
So now we have to be nicer to the shadow people. Amelia could be someone's grandmother.
I can't send them flying anymore, can I? Now that Mike said that, I got to talk to them first, see what they say.
Could be someone's grandma. We can't be mean.
Well, the ones that we've been tossing haven't exactly been friendly when we're in there. Yeah. So.
You do get some nasty ones. I have been in on those cases where you do have some, nastier shadow entities. Yep, they do exist, of course.
All of them that we've had, unfortunately, have been that way.
Bad people, bad shadow person.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I've yet to have a really good experience. But then again, I think, would I be comfortable with it? Just because it's been, and again, even as a researcher and being open-minded, I'm still conditioned to a degree to, when I see something like this, I automatically lean to, that sort of thing. I think I've become more accustomed to having AT around than I would be to having a shadow person. I just find they're sneaky. Lurking around and such. It's weird. It's just like it's an intrusion. I'm used to our spirits here. They don't show up in shadow form or anything. So
and you do have a lot of similarities between, and it's something I'm going to touch on in the presentation, is you do have a lot of similarities between what people report, like when it comes to sleep paralysis, what people report as sleep paralysis with shadow entities and what people report as sleep paralysis with ETs. There are a lot of similarities between the two experiences. So are they actually experiencing the same thing? They're just seeing it in a different context between shadow or ET.
Right. And they look at that as, and some people will tell you demonic experiences, the hag experience sitting on your chest, but you get the bright lights that come up, the sense that you can't move, the sense that you're being watched, the sense, everything's there. And of course, the medical field will say, no.
That always drives me nuts. You're like, oh, it's a hallucination. It's like, I dream of all kinds of different things. I don't just dream of a person. So I dream about cars or motorcycles or airplanes flying overhead or trees or bushes. I've had dreams of being on stage with Motley Crue, and I've never woken up. 2,000 people in my room and pyrotechnics going on. I mean, it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I like it.
Why don't I wake up to that? Yeah.
Sure. Better than being held down in your bed. Well,
Right. Exactly.
guess it depends. So I'm just gonna not touch on that either. But yeah, there are a lot of similarities with that. And again, having had researched that for another show that I did, and having had experiences myself, I can, again, you just automatically lean towards, throw out the Hail Marys. But realistically, I, come to learn too that was having extraterrestrial, visits as well. So it's interesting to hear that theory about shadow people as well. I would not think that's something, I mean, I guess everything, even with spirits, anything, it is considered interdimensional. It's not solid most of the time.
Right.
So why couldn't it hold you down?
Yeah, they're coming in from some different plane of existence. As far as the sleep paralysis, to me, this is two different phenomena that's happening at the same time: the shadow experience and the sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis experience.
Right.
And I don't know how much time we have because that's a whole lot.
Well, we've got like 25 minutes, but you could do whatever you want with it. It's your show.
Okay.
We're just along for the ride, as I say.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, the whole sleep paralysis thing. So I'm going to start with this. So people wake up in the middle of the night. I mean, sleep paralysis is a real biological phenomenon. It absolutely happens where the body will paralyze itself while you're sleeping, so you don't act out your dreams while you're sleeping. It usually happens for people when they wake up, where they will still be paralyzed and they suddenly can't move, and it's very frightening and disconcerting. I've had it twice the opposite way, in which all of a sudden my physical body just shut down because it was so exhausted. My mind was still awake. And it was very frightening, especially the first time that it happened. And I was in a work environment, so I didn't want to get caught.
No, having a moment there.
But I could hear everything going on around me. It's like,
Motley
this is
Crue,
not
really.
good. Yeah. Where's Motley Crue? Yeah.
Tony Pasco.
Yeah. Okay,
so,
crazy.
So I was very frightened. Between I can't move, and I don't want to get caught. So what in the world do I do? And I figured out, okay, let me just try to wiggle a toe. Can I do that? And can I wiggle another? And basically, kind of slowly woke up my body from my toes all the way out and up until I could wake up my head. And that's happened twice to me. Neither time did I see any shadow entities. But yeah, you get a lot of reports of people waking up in the middle of the night and they can't move. They're paralyzed. They see, the shadow entity and all of that. But here's what I believe is actually going on. Again, sleep paralysis being, one phenomenon, the shadow entity being the other. And, people who have had, small children will relate to this, or at least they should.
Yes.
When a child comes into the room, and a lot of times they'll kind of shake you awake if they had a bad dream, you drink water, whatever, go to the bathroom. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just stand there next to the bed and watch you.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
It's true.
It's true. It's absolutely true. My youngest son. Yeah. My youngest son, Cameron, was notorious for it. And he would just stand there next to the bed. And all of a sudden I'd wake up and be like, oh, Cameron, geez, what are you doing?
Yeah, they will you awake by just staring at you. They do.
Well, and there's a thing to that. Yeah. And I'd, take him to, okay, go to the bathroom, or, maybe you had a bad dream or whatever. But, okay, what was it that woke me up if he didn't touch me? Well, it was his presence, his energy. We each have a toroidal field of energy around us that extends out several feet. So when his energy entered my energy, at some point, it hit me. Somebody is here next to me. I feel their presence right next to me, and I woke up, and there's Cameron. Well, what I believe is happening is we're feeling the energy of these shadow entities that, because we feel them in the room, whether it's in the corner, at into the bed, or next to the bed, we're feeling their presence there. We're feeling their energy. That's what's waking us up. But sometimes we have that natural biological phenomena of we're still in sleep paralysis. And that's going on when we see this shadow entity, and all of a sudden now we're scared, we're frightened because there's an intruder in our room. There's somebody there that shouldn't be. And we start attributing the whole paralysis thing to them when it's really something separate that's going on while we're witnessing this. And so I don't believe the whole sleep paralysis is actually the shadow entity willing the paralysis upon us. I believe it's just happening at the same time that we're observing this. I know there's going to be a lot of people.
Like the timing really sucks.
The timing sucks, but
yeah,
it happens because
you're vulnerable.
There are plenty of people that wake up and they see a shadow entity standing there and they don't have sleep paralysis. I mean, my first experience, which was the only experience that had anything to do with sleep. I've seen all kinds of shadow. That's another thing about the medical community is, they attribute the shadow entity to the whole, waking in the middle of the night, sleep paralysis thing, all that stuff. And it's like, wait a minute, 99% of my shadow experiences, I wasn't even in bed. I was like, I was paranormal investigation, wherever. Yeah, I was awake, totally awake for all of it. But even the first one that I had where I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw this thing standing in the corner of my room, I was able to move. My mouth open, obviously my arms moved. When it ran down the hall, I turned my head and watched it go. I have one report in my book, A Walk in the Shadows, where the one guy, he woke up in the shadow sitting on his chest, one of the kind of old hag type stories, but he was able to move. He actually physically threw this thing off him and onto the floor, and they both went rolling on the floor together.
So he was able to, so this was a physical manifestation for him.
Right. Yeah.
See, this is crazy.
It is.
Not enough of things lurking, but you can actually touch it. That's even just more bizarre. So, okay. There was a shadow being in the house actually about a week ago, and this house is like jet black at night, and I could see the darn shadow. It went through, crossed over one of my mirrors, because I have like this winding huge staircase. It's all mirrors, strategically placed. Just saying, okay, it's bouncing around off each other. People come and film here and go, oh, okay, I'm a thinker.
It's so beautiful, though. It's so beautiful to look at.
But I did with measurements, make sure nothing reflected on anything. So just because of that whole mirror portal thing, so I didn't need that crap going on top of everything else.
You'd be the last person to do that, to create a portal in your own house.
Yeah, right. But being pitch black, I could see somehow, I could see this move. So is it that blacker than black thing that you hear about with entities? Is this sort of the same idea? Because I thought so.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of different forms. I mean, it kind of sounds like maybe a mist or a wisp that you observed.
Humanoid form.
This was a humanoid form? Okay.
Yeah, bring me right out. I was like, yeah. I mean, I hadn't fallen asleep yet, but it did. I could see an outline. So let's just go with humanoid.
Tired.
Could have been alien. I don't know. I didn't see the head, but I could see a humanoid form. Really,
with shoulders and tapered down and
shoulders and everything. Okay.
Yeah. It was just very strange. Because like I said, the spirits of this house don't manifest that way. So,
well, it could have been somebody passing through.
Yeah, not usually. This house is like Fort Knox, so it's, unless you're a freaking alien, because apparently it doesn't work with them. But yeah, okay. Well, I just thought I would pick your brain on that, because you don't almost expect to see shadows in the dark.
Yeah, they're like an occlusion of light. So when you're looking in the middle of the night, even when you're just going to sleep, your room is not like 100% dark. There's usually a little bit of a light source somewhere, so it's like extremely dim. It almost looks black, but it's not as black as it could be. So unless you just kind of like totally box yourself in, I don't know, cement yourself into a little box or whatever.
The walls here are like 3 feet thick, so it's
are they? Okay.
It's weird because we have a tower where a street light reflects and it lights up the whole tower, and it hits the mirror and lights up the whole second floor. That just doesn't happen anymore. And I'll leave out there. But so yeah, this
You might
shadow
want to
thing.
investigate her house.
Yes,
Sounds like it. Sounds like a pretty cool house. Yeah.
Next episode.
Yeah, it's
There we
a 1872 Gothic Revival manor. It's fun.
Oh, nice.
It's fun. They're So I don't know. It hasn't disappointed. People who come to film spend the night and just running around. And coins are being thrown and dropped, and it's like it's money. Can I just have like bigger money?
Yeah, free money. You gotta
Keep
like
your
that.
dimes. Give me
Gold
bigger
bars.
money.
I'll take one on the head.
Give me a gold bar. Yeah.
That's it. I'll take one on the head. Don't worry.
Yes,
You
just
know,
one gold bar, please.
That's all I need
Old
right
silver
now.
coins, anything. Cheap buggers, come on. This is a like high-end family. I'm kidding. So, but anyway, yeah. So it's an interesting house. It really is. It's very welcoming, shall we say. But I wish that we weren't on lockdown, because I would love to attend that conference and hear what you have to say about it. I find it absolutely fascinating. Shadows, I sort of, after you were on the first time, I've sort of been looking at it a little bit differently. And you're right,
Okay.
they do go back to ancient times. It's funny because, spirits on average, I mean, you hear about them, they don't put a whole lot of emphasis on it the way they do with certain beings. And shadows do seem to be one of those beings that goes way back,
Yeah. You see it all the way back, ancient Sumer, ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of the things that I'm researching there while I'm in Egypt. Now, we're going to be doing a lot of different things there, but I will be digging into the origins, because that was part of their belief system.
Mhm.
That was one of the parts of the soul was
Yes.
the shadow, and so that hung around here on Earth along with the Ka, while the other parts of the soul went off to the constellation of Orion. But you still and you see some of the ancient Egyptian artwork where you have the bob birds, kind of flying off to go to Orion, and here's the shadow still hanging out by the tomb. So
Isn't that why they prepared the pyramids that way for the royals? Because of what stayed behind.
Yeah, they would do a lot of interesting things within the tombs. Like they would make a fake door. So they would basically kind of carve in this doorway, of course, put all the hieroglyphs and everything. But that would be a way for the soul to kind of go in and out. If it wants to like visit another realm, it could go through the door, and then it could come back. So
makes you wonder: was it really
interesting things like
symbolic, or did they create a portal?
I've wondered. Yeah,
They're brilliant. Egyptians just. The ancients, on average, just knew how to work energy and frequencies, vibrations, all of that. More so than we do now. I always say we're the species with amnesia. We
are. We absolutely are. Yeah.
We don't remember how to do anything cool. Just like the ancients had it all together. They built amazing places. They had such an understanding of the universe.
But they had a collective. They all believed in it. They had a collective belief system. It's not like now where we're so separated and divided by race, color, religion. Then it was just, they were one. There's a lot of power behind oneness with energy. I wonder if those symbols on that, I wonder if those symbols on those doors were even like a ward to keep negativity out and keep them from, perhaps delving into the wrong side.
Well, you had some of that. So, like a lot of the hieroglyphs were like a guide for the soul, basically like instructions. This is where you need to go, and this is how you do this.
Like the Book of the Dead.
As you move into the afterlife. Yeah, exactly. I actually have the Book of the Dead right back there.
There we go. Of course you do.
Oh my God, I need that one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. The how-to of how to get around in the afterlife.
Yeah. We call it the Book of the Dead, but it was actually called the Book of Going Forth by Day. So basically, the soul going forth into the afterlife. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and the whole weighing the scale, weighing with the feather against what you were bringing. It's fascinating ideologies. I love the way the ancients looked at things, going back like even prior to all of that. I love like the Druids and the Celts and just their whole way, how everything was projected then. It's just, it was good because the Catholics and the Christians just stole it.
Again, send
And
that
then- and
email
you're-
to Joe Montaldo. United Public Radio.
Just stating a fact, people look it up. Not being like
They're the
mean or
first
anything.
ones to email us too.
Nah. And you're right. There is a lot of divisiveness these days, and it's a shame because even as we look at a lot of those ancient sites, if we just are looking at it from just studying it, you have people like us that are like, okay, let's try to figure out how that actually works so we can tap into the power. Where you have the mainstream archaeologists and all that basically saying, well, this was just their religious belief. It doesn't actually have any real power. They're standing stones. We don't know how they actually put it together, but they're there, and it's archaeological site. Okay, but it has a lot more meaning to it, guys. Let's dig into that.
Yeah, so can we
Let's
please have
figure
the
out how it
real
actually
answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, phone a friend. No, really, can we have the real answer? It's true. A lot of these places, and I'm just messing around with the Christian thing. They did amalgamate a lot. Okay, they took the good out of everything and blended the cultures and kept everything, just it all worked out. But unfortunately, because of that, you don't get all of the real information that stems back prior to Christianity. And sorry, guys, 350 AD, I think, if you're lucky. So before that, there was so much. And I mean, they were completely in tune with extraterrestrials. They knew the stars system. They knew everything, and they don't have the technology that we have today. You have to ask yourself, how did they build these monoliths? I mean, let's just look at Egypt.
Yeah.
For example, Abu Simbel. You had the sun, coming in a certain time and hitting right on the, you go right into the temple, and you would hit right on, what was it, like Ramses,
Yeah, that's
just
perfect. That's absolutely perfect.
it was ideal. And there's so many of the monoliths that do exactly the same thing. The sun would shine at a certain time of the year. But what's strange is, let's face it, it all moves. The planets move. They don't stay there. It's been thousands of years. Things should be off even a little bit. Even their calendars are different. So how does it still work? It's crazy. Like even with the solstice, coming in, different solstices coming in, the light reflects on the temples around the world in different manners. It's just
beautiful.
they just had a way. They just knew what was going on, and we can't figure out half of that with the technology that we have today.
And I'm going to be in the Great Pyramid on the summer solstice this year, so that is going to be
that's
amazing.
awesome. That's
Oh, it is.
fantastic. Good for you.
Yeah.
The pyramid by
That's
itself
excellent.
without the solstice is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I've been.
If
It's
anybody wants to
fantastic.
come along, I think there's still a couple slots left. It's the Return of the Kepler Cycle tour with Johnny Enoch and Mohammed Ibrahim.
So
Jay
it's gonna be
Widener's on that. So yeah,
Yeah. Unless
Yeah.
you
Great,
live,
great tour. Yeah.
unless you
No.
live in Canada, you won't be able to leave.
Johnny puts on a good presentation. He puts on a good party, as we say. It's just,
Yeah.
I adore him. I love anything he posts. I love, because it's entertaining. It's knowledgeable. He has a way of twisting things just so you get it, and you're just like, yeah, was that you insulting somebody there?
Yeah.
It's just,
Absolutely.
He's got his ways. So, but we are coming close to the end of the show. So tell
Okay.
everyone how to find you, please, and whatever you'd like to promote.
Yeah, you can find me, of course, at MikeRicksecker.com. The Shadow Dimension right now is running on Vimeo On Demand, Zuzu, and Quasum. And then, again, more platforms. But you can find out more information about that, ShadowDimension.com. You can check out the trailer, the extended sneak peek, get all the information in the platforms we're streaming right now. I also have the Connected Universe Portal website. So this is it's a learning platform as well as a membership platform. So the first class that's up, of course, is Shadow Entities.
There we go. I'll have to take
Yeah,
that
there you go,
one.
of course.
Connected
Of course.
Universe.
Yeah, it's
Connected
on-
Universe
It's
Portal.
on the
Portal.
Outer Realm. We put it on the Outer Realm, but people can go to the page and click on
cool.
it.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah,
So-
and the membership site has like monthly Q&A videos. We've got a lot of behind the scenes, the sneak peek stuff. So a lot of Shadow Dimension stuff.
Mhm.
Extras are out there. I do like all kinds of like little vlogs. Like the last one I just did was on the connections between, you would like this, the connections between Atlantis and Antarctica. So
Okay, see, now I gotta go
Yeah.
join.
yeah, and then all kinds of articles and stuff I have out there too. So
We haven't even
Cool.
touched
Yeah.
on Antarctica.
How do they get your book, Mike?
well, you can just go to Amazon. A Walk in the Shadows, A Complete Guide to Shadow People, and I have 10 other books out there as well. So you can go to my website, MikeRicksecker.com, and click on the link, or go to Amazon and look them up. So
Okay, thank you.
There we go.
absolutely.
I learned so much. Thank you. Sorry for my
Thank you
pop culture pops.
No, it's all fun.
Good.
You can't
I'm
say
glad.
we're not amusing anyway. So
You guys are a lot of fun. Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh,
it's
it's our
amazing,
pleasure.
and
It's our pleasure. So
I'm so
I
glad
will
to
go.
meet you.
And I will go check out your new website because it sounds like there's
Thank
a
you.
lot of stuff on there that I would love, and give it a member, give it a new member. I'll do it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, we shall do it. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
It's
you.
always a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you. So
Well, have a good
guys, we have come to another end here to the Outer Realm. Boo already. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Big thank you to Mike Ricksecker and, of course, Joe Montaldo, who we know is behind the scenes doing some stuff for her, taking care of us like the wizard that he is. Remember to stop by the International Public Radio and UFO Paranormal YouTube channel. Subscribe. Can't remember the other one, Joe. I'm sorry. I'm going to leave it
Too
right
long.
there. Yeah, forget it. So he's got to change that, honestly. So while you are there, please head on over to the Outer Realm group page on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram if you'd like to see a specific guest or topic on the show, or perhaps you might be interested in coming on yourself. You're going to be waiting a while, though, because we are well into the fall. I think if we've got maybe a handful of spots left to book all for the remainder of the year, I'd be surprised. So, but go on over to the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. Again, the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. Join us tomorrow night as we welcome back Mr. Stephen Myers to the show. He will be discussing his further research on the ancient Pyramid of Giza as an elaborate water pump system. Wow. So thank you, everyone, and good night.